So, welcome Dan. For those who don't know, this is Daniel Van Hymus. He's a level 4 referee and a business owner. He owns a digital marketing business. So welcome. Appreciate it, Dan.
No problem.
Thanks very much for your time today. So level 4 refereeing, what does that actually mean?
So the levels are just a promotion system within refereeing. So it'll equate to what level of the football pyramid that I can referee and line at. So level 4 allows me to ref at Northern League, Division 1 and Division 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd line on the level above that, so like Northern League, Prem, Northern League, East Division, that sort of level.
Yes.
So your likes of, I'd line, so if I was to put teams to that, I'd line to the likes of Heaven Town, and I'd referee the likes of Burtley Town, for two local sides of.
Yeah. So that's sort of the semi-professional level there.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, semi-professional.
Yeah,
so,
you have some lads getting a good standard of football within that.
Yeah, I mean, with South Shields, so we'd line at South Shields, and I'm pretty sure they've gone fully professional now.
Yeah,
theirs are on full-time contracts.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So to talk about your footballing official journey, then, when did you first get involved with that?
I started. You had to be 14 to do the course, and I think I did it like 2 days after my 14th birthday, so I'm not sure I could have started any earlier.
Right.
And I've done it now. I'm 23, so I started when I was 14.
Right. So that's a 9-year journey then.
Yeah.
Wow. So what made you first get involved then?
I don't know. I always wanted to do it. I suppose there's a few incentives. One of them was you got paid quite a lot to run around, and I enjoyed running at the time. So for a 14-year-old, like 20-25 quid a game was class at the time. It was when you consider the only other jobs you could really get were like paper boy, paper round type thing.
Yeah.
So I suppose money was an incentive to a degree. But I just I don't know. I love football, and it was just another thing I could do.
Mm-hmm. So did you play football at the time as well?
Yeah. So I played right up until I was 18.
Right.
And then in that season, I was kind of thinking about taking a step back from the footy anyway, just to referee, because things would become a bit more serious. But I didn't want to risk getting injured and messing up my season.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I played up till I was 18, and I still miss it, to be fair. Like I want to go back a lot, and occasionally play. Like I played in like the referees charity football game like once a year.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's like I do definitely miss it. Like this year, I was horrific this year though. Like I spent half the game just chasing me touch, So.
Yeah. When you're not doing it regularly,
yeah.
Then obviously, you sort of move away from it. But you'd like to start playing again.
I miss it, but I can't say it's playing again. Like no.
Right. Okay.
I've ref Sunday morning now, so seeing some of the tackles that go in, I just think don't fancy being on the end of some of those.
Fair enough. So when you start this journey, you're 14, and now you're refereeing sort of the juniors, sort of 7 and 8 sort of years old?
Yeah, so no, probably a bit older than that. So I think when you first pass your course, you've got to do 5 games. It takes you from a trainee referee to I think it's now called a level 7. They might change the name. And to do them 5 games, it has to be played with offsides. So you do have to do 9 and 11 aside, even when you're 14. So I think that would be about 12-year-olds. And you can referee until you're 16. You can only referee the year below you. You can't referee the same age or above until you get to 16.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did all sorts really. I did anything up from like under 8s, under 9s at Monkton up to like the age that they'd let me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of the games we'd do. I remember like my first game. It was one of the Heaven teams, and I remember refereeing the game, and it was such a bizarre game. I think there was 4 penalties in the game or something.
Wow.
So it's.
Okay.
But and my dad was there watching, and it was quite a difficult game to manage. Like for myself at the time, obviously I just started, and it was like I think it was 2 Heaven teams, so all the players knew each other, and I mean, granted 12, and I'm talking as if it's like a big, it's like a really challenging game, but But I suppose when you're 14, it was, and I just loved it. Honestly, it was such, like maybe as if I got a boring 0-0 and nothing happened, I might not still be
Yeah.
doing it. But I did the first game, just loved it, and never looked back really.
So immediate job satisfaction then.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Excellent. All right, great. Right. So, and were you given a mentor or anything like that, or?
Yeah, you were assigned a mentor. I didn't really have one when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
It would I can't remember ever meeting the guy. I did technically have a mentor, but there wasn't much use at the time. It's more so as I've gotten older and progressed through the levels. I mean, Durham FA are really good for refs, so they have the time it was called the Referees Academy.
Okay.
So it was for like any young referee who's just started on the Northern League, with kind of ambitions to progress, and in that they assigned you a coach. I had a lad called Johnny Irwin, so at the time he was like a level 3. I was a level 7, and he came to watch quite a few of my games, give me loads of advice, and then he was my coach for a couple of years, and then I moved into what's called the National Core Program. So it's like stands for the Centre of Referee Excellence, and as part of that you're assigned a coach. So I've had 2 coaches do that. But at the start, I think it's a lot better now. I think there is definitely a lot more almost dedicated mentors, and there's a lot of training for the mentors now. But when I first started, I didn't really have any contact with anyone.
Right. So you were almost by yourself.
Yeah.
Was there an assessment from time to time, or was it just you refereeing games each week?
Yeah, just me refereeing. It wasn't until I joined the promotion system and like showed aspirations to move ahead that they start to send out assessors from the county who'd come out and watch you and give you some advice and give you a mark.
Okay.
And then based on their marks and a number of other criteria like fitness and game, like the amount of games you've done, the amount of lines you've run, that would determine whether you got promoted up to level 4, which is when the national FA would take over from there.
Right. Okay. And within those assessments, then, was one of the things communication with the players? Yeah, communication's a huge part of even in our current assessment criteria. It's one of the biggest like metrics, I suppose, for what mark you come out with at the end. I think it's only second to decision making accuracy. Right. Okay. And how did you find that, communicating in particular with players? Because we all know that you don't have a game without a referee, but they're not exactly players' favourite people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's the strange one was when you first started, when I was 14, you don't like, the players are so young, you're not really talking to the players, and like if an 8-year-old gives you stick, you know what I mean? I mean, it just didn't affect me whatsoever, but you kind of find that the main people you had to contend with were like parents on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So like as you move through the ages, I wouldn't say the abuse is a strong word. The stick you'd get comes more from the sidelines and works its way onto the pitch.
Right. Okay.
And then obviously when you're doing adults, it's fine. So I actually find moving up the ages, it became easier to referee.
Okay.
It's much easier to manage players on the pitch that you're working with and talking with all the time, rather than somebody who might be a few decades older than you on the sideline that's you just can't reason with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's like the time I spent going to talk to you on the timeline, on the sideline, is time I'm taking away from people on the pitch who want to play football. So So yeah, there wasn't really a big thing to contend with at the start with players. With kids it was easy because I would just talk them all the way through the game.
Yeah.
And I think I did my coaching badges when I was 16, so that helped as well. So like when I was still 15, 16, even when I was refereeing the lads that were slightly older, I think I could talk to them easily. And at the end of the day, I think I was like, say, refereeing under 15s and the 16s.
Yeah.
Because I was only a couple of years older than them. Like I could relate to them a lot more maybe than and taught them in a different way. I taught them more along more in a style that they would speak to each other. within reason, obviously. I wouldn't talk them so much as is it so prescribed and methodic as like bringing the player in and saying, you have been cautioned, this is what you've been cautioned for under this criteria. It would be more like, he was aware there, you know, it's got to be a yellow for that, and people accept that more. I think that they relate to it a lot more easily than being so robotic.
So you know, you're bringing the human side to the game, and you're saying, oh, you should weigh this, however, you know, you can't argue yellow card, or you know, you're giving them a warning that, you know, you've had 2 or 3 niggles they might have, you know, just to let you know. So you're communicating more on their level, if you like.
And the expectations for communication change, but over across the ages that you referee and the levels that you ref. So some of the better players, they just want you to give the yellow card. They don't even really want to talk to them. Their main interest is, I need to get back in position and defend this free kick. It's not so much, it's like, show me the yellow card and I can get away. Even sometimes pulling a player in and doing everything by the book becomes more frustrating to them than just simply showing a quick yellow card where you can.
Okay, so at times you're saying it's easy, you know, you see them on TV sometimes, you know, and they're just walking away and the referee showing the yellow card. But you're saying at times that's perfectly justified behaviour from the referee and from the player because of the circumstance? To a degree. I think the times that I would use a quick yellow and red card is if I think it's going to help diffuse a situation. So there's an example earlier on in the season. So my first game of the season, there's a dogso, so a denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. The player's fouled his opponent on the edge of the box, and it's on a half an hour mark, and I've went quick with a quick red card, and that's worked. It's helped resolve that situation. That's fact. That's helped the game and helped retain match credibility. In the same game later on in the match, I've shown a quick yellow card, and it has not helped whatsoever because so there's times to do it, and there's times to bring out a player, isolate them from what's going on in the game, slow the game down, bring it down to my level, like give everyone a few seconds breather, and then show caution. Had I have done that, that would have helped my match control in that instance. So it's always just trying to pick and choose the times to do that. I think in the Prem it's different because there's, well, especially this season, there's so much more of an emphasis on the ball in play. They don't want nobody wants the game to last 60 minutes. They don't want to see 60 minutes worth of football, 90-minute game. They're trying to extend that period. So I think they use that as the quick yellow card just to help get the game going again. But technically you're supposed to bring the player in, check the name, and then do it. Realistically, most referees just write down the number of the player on the yellow card. Well, that I guess that's the difference between a real life situation and what's written down in guidance, and how you manage the game as well, which is, it's important to learn, and for players, I guess, to understand that as well. You know, so within that, then, do you get guidance at the start of each season from the FA about particular things that you should be focusing on, like time in play?
So I'm part of it's the referee association's got like local branches. So I go to Sunderland area, and so Jeff Elteringham, who's the chairman, I believe, he obviously referees in the Championship, and the PGMOL, which is the professional game body of referees that employs the referees full time in the Premier League and in the Championship. They deliver a presentation to referees saying, this is what we want. We've consulted with the clubs in the Premier League. We've consulted with the other stakeholders. This is how we think, if we implement this, will be a positive outcome for the game. So a lot of the time this season, there's a big emphasis on time wasting, cracking down on time wasting. You know, Newcastle suffered for it in the Liverpool game. You know, as devastating as it was, but and then there's also another big one is holding in the box. So now a lot of holding and pulling is probably going to go more unpunished than before, unless it meets a certain criteria. So something it's just well over the top, like the player's shirt looks like a sailboat, or if it has an impact on the player moving towards the ball or his ability to move towards the ball. So if a pull happens and it's just of no consequence, people don't want to see a penalty for that anymore. So that's a couple of examples of changes that they've brought in at the Premier League level that gets presented to us.
Yeah.
But it's up to referees to go to their meetings. To be fair, it's not mandatory. But I always do. So I went to the meeting, and then I was like, this is what is happening at the top, and then that drips down. So whatever you want to see, whatever the Premier League wants to see from its players and from its referees, that'll essentially come straight down into around my level. I'd say like Northern League. So some of them changes have already happened this season. Yeah.
And do you know, in your opinion, are there changes for the better from both the officials' perspective and the game as a whole? Do you think they're improvements, I would say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hate time wasting. More so as a spectator, as a referee, sometimes it can help you out, as long as you seem to be managing it to a degree. But no, I think they are definitely positive changes. I think they're very much common sense changes. And one thing on that as well is that's all done in consultation with clubs. And at the start of the season, the Premier League and the Championship lads, they go out to each club and they'll present as like, this is what you can expect to see from this season from us. And so everybody's on board with the changes at the start of the season.
Okay, so that's communicated to managers, coaches, etc., in the professional game, in the Premiership and Championship levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I suppose we probably could do better on as a group is, if that is trickling down, maybe just make it more public. And I know pundits and commentators, I mean, you'll be sick of hearing on the games the commentators saying, they've really cracking down on time wasting this season. That's because they're briefed with the same presentation that goes to clubs and goes to players.
Right.
So maybe we could do a better job of explaining or showing or even telling people the changes that have been brought in and how that's going to apply to the full football pyramid, rather than just showing the Premier League clubs.
Yeah, I think that would be good to communicate at all levels. You know, obviously the Premiership's is top, and that's where a lot of things start. But it would be nice for levels below that, you know, Division 1, Division 2, etc., you know, to at least get a presentation.
They definitely will. In Division 1 and Division 2 they will. It's more so like the likes of teams I would referee.
That trickle down from there to continue on down to, you know, from our region, the likes of Gateshead and teams like that. Would be nice if they could have a presentation at some point prior to the season. It may well help with the relationship between the officials and the clubs. Who knows? But, do you think there's at your level, at the level 4, do you think there's a positive relationship between the officials and the clubs, or do you think there's a definite divide?
Right, okay, I'll have to be careful how I answer this question.
Share what you can.
No. I think so. There's a strange dynamic between clubs and referees, definitely. For one thing, in some games, we're the only people getting paid. You know, maybe it's not so much now in Division 2, but last season when we refereed Wayside League teams, there was times when we were the only teams on the pitch getting paid. So I think to a degree that creates a bit of animosity if something doesn't go your way. Maybe there's a little bit more frustration. So there's one thing. Another thing is the clubs have a direct ability to influence whether or not we stay on the list at our level or go up or down, essentially. So like clubs, we have tables. There's 2 metrics, one for observers, one for clubs, and depending on certain criteria, that can mean, and everyone's ranked all the way down and we know positions, and we'll move up or down based on club marks and observer marks. So if a club marks a referee poorly for, I think it's 2 seasons, and also he has one probably bad observation season, he will probably be relegated down to level 5. Conversely, if the referee has a good season and the majority of clubs have thought the referee has done a good job, then he has a chance of getting promoted. So I think that always plays on people's mind. A lot of the criticisms that we get from clubs is you change when an observer's there.
Okay.
So a yellow card that you give with an observer, that could be credited in terms of your assessment, and then with the clubs, if the observer isn't there, some the accusation from clubs is that we manage some of the yellow cards more in order to improve the club mark, because essentially if every yellow card or red card you dish out to a club is costing them money, they get fined for that. And it's usually not the players that pay at this level, it'll be the club and the secretary. So there is a strange dynamic. I honestly I have a pretty good relationship with all the clubs that I've dealt with, because I don't change the way I referee a great deal if there is an observer there. And that and everyone says that, but it's actually genuinely true. I think if you start trying to change up your refereeing style and what you're giving cards for, and second guessing based on what mark you might come out with at the end, I just don't think that's very helpful. I really don't. I think it makes refereeing a lot more harder, and sometimes not giving a yellow card and not managing a game in a way that essentially, I think sometimes giving a yellow card can prevent further action. So here's an example. So in the past I might have managed a tackle, for example, and say, look, you only get one of them lines, the next one has to be a caution. That player will then do it again and get cautioned. Now, one of the clubs would argue he should have had a yellow card for the first tackle, and then you give him a yellow card for the second tackle, therefore he should have been sent off. However, players are a bit clever on that. I think sometimes if you're on a yellow card, you might not necessarily put in the second tackle. But you can cause yourself problems trying to think in that way, trying to please. I think I just go out and referee the best I can, and then I hope that the clubs respond to that and the observers respond to that in a similar way. But no, I do have good relationship with most of the clubs that I've come across. And to be fair, honestly, like essentially these clubs are like small businesses, and some of them, the costs of running a club must be insanely high. So there's so many volunteers that are just make the impossible happen and keeping a lot of these clubs afloat. I mean, there is some clubs with a lot more money and resources like South Shields and stuff like that, but some of the other clubs that you go to, we just think, wow, like fair play for managing to keep this going and keep like what is a pillar to their community alive and thriving. So I always have massive respect for clubs, no matter what they mark me. I tend not to try and look, just because I just don't think it's very helpful information. I kind of, when you come off if you've had a good game or you've had a bad game.
That was going to be a question. When you're walking off the pitch, and do you think, I've had a bit of a stinker today, or do you think, I've done well today? Do you have those little moments to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you very rarely, I think you'd come off thinking you've had a stinker, and that's not me being arrogant. It's more the sense of you make so many decisions. You don't generally feel like you've gotten them all wrong. I mean, you've seen no evidence to think that you've got them all wrong. The things where you come off thinking you might have had a bad game were more to do with what happens in and around the 2 penalty areas and what happens in front of the dugouts. People don't really remember anything else that happens. It's more so the incidents happening in front of the dugouts which can inflame the game and the biggest decisions around the penalty area. it's so it's more if you come off and you feel like you've had a negative impact on a game, or you've made a decision which may not be correct, and that has cost the team points. But like I say, a lot of the time it's impossible to know without video footage, because you just make the best decision that you can in the game. And sometimes there's been an instance last season. There was a challenge in the penalty area. I wasn't really of any consequence to the game, because the game was 4-0 at this point. And I've give a penalty, and I think I give the penalty, and I think this is a hard sell here. I don't think many people are going to think this is a penalty.
Okay.
And I caution the player for a reckless challenge.
Okay.
After the game, and then about 20 minutes later, I think that was a red card. I think I've got that wrong. I think that was a red, and I ran past a lad called Luke Collins, who used to referee. Who's a really good referee, but he plays football now in the Northern League. So and he was playing on the game, and I ran past him and I went, Luke, that was a red card, wasn't it? He went, I think so.
Right.
So so then games you come off, even though I didn't really have an impact, it's just like a sickening feeling. You know, it's just, it's not nice. That's why like it, I think that's why almost you work hard to get in good positions, and you train during the week, and you go to the seminars and you do the best you can, just because almost that feeling is worse than the feeling of having a good game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That is more of an, I mean that's just natural human behaviour, but like, yeah, that feeling that is the worst feeling. Like, but so it's just trying to minimise the likelihood of that happening. Is the biggest challenge, I think.
Yeah, and it's so many split-second decisions as well. Not only for players who, you know, I picked the wrong pass there, or, you know, I should have turned that inside, and then you have to very quickly move on from that as a player. You as a referee also have to quite quickly move on from those decisions as well. Yeah, I suppose that is true. You don't want to be. Sometimes sometimes you think you might be in your head about something, and then you just don't have the time to be. Yeah. Because something else could happen like that. Yes. And that happens so often, because I suppose if you've missed a yellow card, or you've missed a foul, and everyone knows you missed a foul, then players then frustrated. Yes. You know, I see it so often. A player thinks he's fouled, he's tripped, he doesn't get it, he gets up, has a bit of a go, then the other, he just goes to try and get the same player back who's on the ball, and 9 times out of 10, that challenge that he's going after him for is going to be a hell of a lot worse than the one that he might have just had, that safe free kick that you've missed. Yeah. So you have to be alert and switched on. You can't dwell too much on what might have happened in a game previously. Yeah, and some of those things you've touched on as well, I don't know if people will appreciate, you know, because a lot of players, for example, they might train on a Wednesday and play on a Saturday, and that's it. You know, there's nothing else for them to do other than focus on a good training session and a good game on a Saturday, whereas you have lots of other things to do and to prepare. Yeah, I think, well, to a degree, players do train. I suppose some players train every day, but yeah. So if I take you through my routine, usually, well, this week I have a game tomorrow in the County Cup, Dunstan versus Eschwinning, and then I have a game on Wednesday in the Northern League Division 2, and then on Saturday I have an FA Vars line, and on Sunday I have a FA core meeting, so a training event. Right. Within that time, I've also got to train. So my brother's doing a sports science degree, and he's doing his level 4 PT qualification. So I give him all my games, and he creates a training plan for us. Okay. He's really good, good. So I'm noticing a huge difference from that. So I've got a fit training in, and then also I watch back every game and every decision. So every game that. So a lot of the clubs at our level now record the games, and I always email the secretary after, says, would you mind sending me a link to your video footage? Yeah. And I watch back every single game, every single decision, and decide whether or not I got it right or wrong. And then I'm also thinking, if I did get it right, I did get it wrong. If I got it right, did I get lucky to a degree? Did I have a great view? Was I in the right place? Yeah. What else could I have done?
So that takes quite a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to learn from that, learn from mistakes, learn from errors, learn from occasions where I got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And also for peace of mind, you're watching back and think, okay, I got that one right.
Yeah.
I got that big decision right.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been in a better position, but still I got away with it.
Yeah.
Something along them lines. Could I have managed that player better?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what does it look like? How does my body language look? Am I demonstrating confidence to players?
Yeah.
How does the interactions with players look? Sometimes totally innocent conversations on the field can look like that a player's manipulating you in a certain way, even though it's not at all. It'd just be his body language and your body language just don't click. So yeah, just watching things back, reflecting on games. Yeah, so that does take up a lot of time. People don't realise how long that would take.
Yeah, it certainly seems like a lot more time than, with all due respect to the players, it's a lot more time and effort put into that than the average Northern League Division 1 player will put into playing. As I say, they might either play 2 games a week or have 2 training sessions in a game. They don't have to think about research, reviewing footage, etc., etc. Or probably don't anyway. But you have to do all of that, or you feel like you want to do all that, is to improve as a referee.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a requirement for a referee at level 4 to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to referee at level 4 for the rest of my life. As much as I enjoy the level, I want to go and referee as high as I possibly can. So, just trying to get anything out of what I can. Maybe we don't get a lot of games. I mean, this week's a bit of an anomaly. We don't get a lot of medals over a season.
Yeah.
We have probably 15 games, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got 15 chances to impress everybody that's watching.
Mm-hmm.
Observers, coaches, and the clubs to see if you can make that jump up the levels.
So you do have an ambition to go up a level. Or levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you go. Okay. And correct us if I'm wrong here, Dan, but I think you've done a little bit of futsal as well. Yeah,
I did. Yeah, so I think I started that when I was 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. Well, I say I was refereeing that. I don't know what I was refereeing, but it wasn't futsal.
Okay.
But and that's a comment on me, not the players. The training that we got for that was, we did it in Heaven Town put it on, so they put on this session because they wanted to run a futsal league.
Okay.
And we had a couple of guys from Durham FA come over, and they tutored the futsal course, and they were lovely blokes, but they'd never seen a game of futsal in their life, so they were just showing us what they'd been sent via a DVD.
Okay.
So yeah, and so that training wasn't great, to be fair. So I went out, and it was just essentially just treating it like 5-a-side. So for anyone who doesn't know, futsal's it's essentially football, indoor football, 5-a-side, with a lot of rules that make the game quicker, faster paced, that encourage quick decision making, playing out with the ball. It's not the typical 5-a-side you think of, where you can bounce the ball off the wall and stuff to get around people, and there's no head height restrictions or any of that stuff. It comes from South America. It's really good if you ever get a chance to watch it. It's sometimes on BT Sport. But yeah, where was I going with that? So I started that, and then I got more into the fold. So Tina Reid, who used to run the futsal program over at Durham, introduced me to a bloke called Ian Vaines, and Ian is the National Futsal Appointments Officer for the FA.
Okay.
And he coached me a bit and kind of helped get rid of bad habits and stuff that I'd picked up and learned, and brought me into the kind of the futsal fold, and I refereed on that for a while. I went up through the National League system, and then following that onto the Super League, so essentially the top referee, the top league in England, and then when I think I was 19. Just turned 19. I refereed the FA Futsal Cup final. Yeah. Okay. Which is the FA Cup final in futsal, I suppose. So So, and then I did a couple of European tournaments that we sent me out to Finland and Portugal, and yeah, it was class. I loved it. Yeah, I missed it to a degree, but it's another thing. It just comes with such a time commitment. It's like you've got to think like everything that I was doing for football would also have to be done for futsal.
Yeah.
And also my nearest team would be in Manchester at the Super League level. So there's so much travelling, and yeah, it's something I had to give, and it was over COVID, so they had different restrictions, so they couldn't play indoors or whatever, like. So essentially there was nothing for about 2 years, and then and at that same time all the laws changed, and I think I lacked a bit. I lacked the sort of energy in me to go back after it, and decided to focus more on the 11er side and push on in that. I felt like I achieved everything I could in futsal. I don't think there was a lot more for me to get. I could potentially have gotten a FIFA badge, but there's a few in line ahead of me, I think, and you had to be 24 was the minimum age, so I was like 19 at the time, so it just felt like an eternity away.
Absolutely, yeah. But at 19 to be refereeing European tournaments and stuff like that, that's still a great achievement, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was class.
Yeah.
And I had such good people around me. I worked with the likes of Mark Burkett, Peter Nurse, Carl Jones, who've refereed at a high level and European and international level. So, another guy, Karoli Torek, from Hungary, he'd refereed the FIFA World Cup final like 5 times or something crazy.
Wow.
So I got a lot of good advice from that, and I genuinely think that futsal should be used as a development tool for football. I used to tutor the course, and one of the things I did is I sat and counted in a game of football and a game of futsal, I think for the first X number of minutes, how many decisions you make.
Yeah.
And in a game of futsal, and I think there's been some research done on this since, but don't quote me, you're making around 3 to 4 times as many decisions in the same period of time as you would a football game.
Okay.
Just because of the dynamic of it, there's smaller pitches, and also you also end up with a lot more occasions where you might have a good view, but an angle can change very, very quickly. Football's while there might be more players on a football pitch, it's a much wider open space.
Yeah.
So the compressed nature of it is great for players because they learn to play out with their feet, but great for referees. Yeah, you're constantly having to try and find an angle, and work with your teammates in different ways. So it definitely has helped a lot in the football career, and I'd encourage anybody who's just starting out to definitely take on futsal, because it's probably like a lot of I've been a part of like a lot of great stuff, but that has probably been one of the biggest game changers, I think, for me refereeing wise. I think that has helped bring me on massively.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time I was refereeing, like say that where you've got players that are playing European and internationally in England, and I was also refereeing Sunday League. So no disrespect to Sunday League players, but I was accessing a higher calibre of players at a much younger age, and I don't know if you ever read Matthew Syed's book Bounce or Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers.
No.
So they place like a big emphasis on purposeful practice.
Okay.
So his theory is that talent is a myth now. I don't really. Well, I suppose it means, what do you mean by talent? Obviously, genetics play a huge part. Like, look at like Michael Phelps and Michael Jordan, for example. They are just made to play their respective sports. Yeah. But the dynamic of it is huge as well. So how much that you train, and not only train in a purposeful way.
Right. So
doing futsal where you have to make 3 or 4 times as many decisions than a game of football. I was essentially having to make them decisions, reflect and review on them in real time, and post match. You just learn so much. You learn so much so quickly. You're practicing constantly, and that can only help you get better. So that was one way that I look at it, and it was good. It was great. I loved doing it, but it's a fantastic referee development tool. And I don't think many people have done it, so I think I've had a little bit of an unfair advantage, which you've got to chase, you know.
Yeah, not really an unfair advantage. You would just had an opportunity, and you had the time and the effort and the energy to take it. you know.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone's got a number of unfair advantages that they've just got to, to exploit them essentially.
Yeah.
But
yeah. It's interesting to hear about the decision making side though, and how you're making those decisions. I don't know how closely or if you follow rugby at all, but I remember reading a little thing by a guy called Brian Moore, who played rugby years ago for England when it was still amateur, and he was saying about the differences then to now, and a lot of times now the players are looking to the sidelines for the next call from the coaches because it's also structured. Whereas back in the day, he was a solicitor, there was a lot of policemen in the team, a lot of businessmen in the team who were making decisions every day as part of their jobs, so they found the decision making on the pitch a lot easier as well, as opposed to the more structured way that rugby is now. So, the decision making then to now in rugby is slightly different. But as you say, if you're making a lot more decisions in a shorter space of time in futsal, it's got to have an impact on the way you referee and your decision making in the 11-a-side game as well. So absolutely.
Football feels, if you feel like you've got more of a breather between decisions, so it's almost easier in that sense than refereeing futsal. Futsal is probably, I'd say, harder to referee.
And in regards to all of the refereeing that you've done, has it had any positive impacts or negative impacts in regards to things like stress levels and managing time or anxiety and stuff like that? Has it had any sort of big impacts around you in regards to that? Has a game that you've refereed and you've received a load of grief from, has that kept you awake at night or anything like that?
I wouldn't say it's kept me awake at night. That'll probably be a bit strong, but I have done. I don't get it any. I don't feel it as much anymore. I think when I was around 17, 18, 19, it was, I don't know. I think you refereeing it kind of, because you do so much of that. I mean, I've told you like my week. You do so much of it, it just naturally becomes a little bit of your identity.
Yes.
So, but I think I've just learned to distance that identity from myself. I don't feel like my self-worth is dependent on a game that I've refereed, whereas when I was younger I probably did.
Right.
And I think that's just come with time. I haven't really made a conscious effort to do that. That's not, like I say, it does feel shit when you get something wrong and it has an impact, but I don't feel any lesser because of it, if you know what that means. So I think that helps manage the rest of the other stuff essentially. And then again, I've not yet had, even though all games are filmed, I've not had something that's went viral, or I've not had that. I think I don't know how I mean that is bound to happen at some point, and I don't know how I'll cope with that. I just have to say when it happens. But I mean, even today, I've been sent people have sent me 2 clips. One of them isn't on Twitter, and if it did, it would go viral because it's a horrific challenge, and the referee gave a yellow card. Might not have had a good view of what, but the second one is an offside decision in a I don't know, I should say the competition. It was an offside decision from last weekend, where the referee the linesman has got the decision wrong, and it's clearly onside, and as a result, a team has lost the match and been knocked out of a competition. And that clip is I've seen it already, and I think I know who the official is. I haven't spoken to him, but I don't know him that well, but he must be feeling that because there's hundreds of people just absolutely slating. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've never had an incident like that yet. So maybe that would affect me more. I think the worst one I had was when I did a cup final, and I sent off 2 players, and then I seen someone on Twitter had put a post up about us, but they actually put my name on and my Twitter handle. And Yeah, and the comment is something I don't want to something on the lines of referee ruined the game, blah blah blah. I sent 2 players off for fine. I don't understand what else I would have to do in that situation.
Yeah. What else can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was quite a long time ago, and that felt shit because I seen people that I knew had liked it and things like that, and I just thought, well, yeah. So that didn't feel great. But I don't think I've had something where I've come off and felt that way. I don't think.
Yeah, if it doesn't spring to mind, it doesn't spring to mind. That's fair enough. Yeah, but it sounds like you've had quite a journey, and it continues because you do want to, as you say, you want to referee at the best level that you can, at the highest level that you can, and there's still an ambition to get there. So that's it's really interesting to hear. So to switch up a little bit, obviously, as I mentioned in the intro, you've got a digital marketing business.
Yeah.
So do you want to give a bit of background around that and how what was around the thinking, why that, and how?
Yeah. Well, I think so. Well, yeah. How I started was essentially it started by accident. When I was younger, I think I was like entrepreneurial to a degree, so I did all of the stupid stuff like selling sweets in school, all the cliches. Never cigarettes though, just sweets.
Just sweets.
And then I did some other daft things like trying to flog phone cases on eBay, which taught me a valuable lesson of like how much do you value your time, because to make the 50p margin from this case has taken me like half an hour to wrap it up and put it in the post box.
Yeah.
So I always had ideas, and then I was like, but I had shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
So I'd see something and then I'd start it, and then I'd be like, oh, I've got another idea, and then this would fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
But in doing that, I learned how to build websites, because in my head, you start a business, it needs a website.
Yes.
Which is it's probably not the right way of thinking. It definitely isn't really. Sales before operations. If you think about starting a business. And in doing that, I became relatively good at building websites.
Okay.
Although none of the ideas panned out, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I was in university, and then my friend who owned a restaurant, just didn't like his website. Says, "Will you build me a new one?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And then I did it for a few other people. So I thought what I was going to do was website building for people. I thought that's what I was gonna do after uni. But I actually started just freelancing like that, and then when I finished uni, I went to go work for a digital marketing agency in Newcastle called Edge.
Okay.
So they work with like crazy huge brands like Coca-Cola and I think did some work from Porsche. Or before I got there, like I didn't work on any of them projects. They're quite closely linked with Loose Days. So anybody that went to Loose Fest, all of their marketing is done by Edge and the people in there. So I went in there and I was building websites for clients, and I was earning minimum wage at the time. And I was building a website that I think I did 99% of, that we built about. I don't know if that's in them. We built 5 figures for.
Right. Okay.
So I was like, I think I'm getting the raw end of the deal here.
Yeah.
But that was a valuable experience, because what I was doing at the marketing agency that they were charging 5 figures for, I was doing for other people and charging sometimes 3-4 figures for, so like look. So I learned to like value my work a lot more.
Okay.
And then I left there because I didn't feel like my wage matched how much value I was bringing to the business.
Okay.
Which is fair enough. I mean, one of the stories that I used to tell my brother is that one of the owners, I really like the owners of the business. This isn't a slight on them or anything. But they used to park the Porsche outside of the offices on double yellow lines, and there was a car park round the back.
Right.
And in my head, I was thinking, that must be costing them a fortune. So I totaled it up, and I was thinking, that's like my wage. So he's paying my wage to save 10 minutes. And I was like, well, so I just didn't feel valued.
Yeah.
But I love working there. I love the people. They were great. I went and I had an opportunity to start my own business. Like when my friend had just sold a restaurant, and he had a bit of cash, and it was during COVID, and I think he didn't know quite what he wanted to do, so he's just come work with me, and then we'll find something. So I left and I started working on him on different things. We did some mad stuff. Like during the pandemic, we had they put like a beer cellar inside of an old 1970s might be generous, I don't know, 1970s fire engine.
Okay.
And then put like on the side as beer pumps.
Right.
So I thought that would be great. Like that's a good way of cheering people up. You know,
Absolutely.
you drive up the door and then they can pour their own pint, and then the council didn't agree though, so that was short lived. And then we did a couple of other things, and after he said to me, if he had a different restaurant, he says, why didn't you just do the marketing for the restaurant?
For the restaurant, okay.
So I worked out all the things I think would benefit them. And I says, this is like the month, like for a retainer, this is what we'll do. And then
so is that things like, you know, arranging an opening night or a preview night and stuff like that? Is that what you mean?
I do that. So I never did an opening night, although I definitely could. One of the things that I did organise was influencer events.
Okay.
So especially in hospitality, people, a lot of business owners will kind of like turn the nose up at like influencers, and they'll do the air quotes. Yeah. And I can see why, because they value the food and they think, why am I giving this away for free?
Yes.
But what the like sometimes I think people don't realise that the value that an influencer can bring, if you choose the right one, is they can produce great content for you. They take good photos.
Yeah. And
they also distribute them, so they'll put them out to their own followers. So you get both content and distribution, and because the influencer is intrinsically motivated to get the correct number, to get the engagement on their own account.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they have an equal incentive to produce great content and to produce the right content that's going to deliver to their audience.
Yeah.
Which means that if you reshare it on your own social feeds, that you're also going to benefit from that. So that was kind of my theory, is like we should not be doing so much professional photography.
Yeah.
People don't resonate with that as much on social. It's great for your website, but people don't resonate with that much on social. And we should be focusing more on being influencer first and influencer driven. And in fact, that's what I told him at his previous restaurants, which he sold.
Okay.
So I think he trusted me that to know that it would work, because I think that they must have took that strategy, and they were struggling to hit 1,000 followers, and within I don't know how quickly they did it, but they got to 25,000 within like a year or 2 years without any real spend on, which is quite an achievement. And the restaurant is massively popular. It still is. And we've delivered a similar thing at an existing restaurant.
Okay.
So that is one of the things we do, would be influencer events where we have them all there at the same time. So that would usually be to launch something. But we also just have influencers just calling in like 2-3 times a week, all just scheduled in. But that's only one small part of what we do. We take care of all of the social media, the website, the email marketing. Top tip to anyone in hospitality: if you're taking bookings, you should 100% be using email marketing effectively, because I couldn't believe how good email was. I was skeptical. I thought this is costing a lot of money to do. Yeah. But like sometimes, because you've built up such a loyal customer base, if we bring out an event ticket or something like that, that's instant revenue straight away. It's instant cash in the bank from one email. Yeah. And a number of other things, and yeah. So basically, I put that together for him. Give them a fixed monthly price, and it worked. We delivered on it, so then we took it out and just rolled it out to more restaurants. Okay. And yeah, that's where we're at the minute. And I'm looking to expand both that side, so the hospitality side, and also I'm looking at other potential industries where I think I could add a lot of value. Not necessarily the same strategy, different strategy. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear that modern sort of approach. You know, as a younger guy, and obviously I'm a bit older, but it's interesting to hear that the influence that those influencers have, and the content, I guess, is one of the keys. As you say, the amount of content that's going out from them, the style, the short videos, the quality of photographs that they're pushing. It's almost a win-win for the business and for the influencer.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what all of our clients have got on board with, and it's worked wonders for them. I think the key is selecting the right people. A lot of time people look at the follow count and follower number. It's not usually that important. It's mainly about how much the followers resonate with the influencer. So in the food industry, we're quite lucky because people will run local food accounts. They'll go to just Northeast restaurants, and they'll have just Northeast followers, and they'll post great pictures of the food.
Yeah.
And people follow specifically for recommendations, for places to go out and eat.
Okay.
So that is literally a hungry audience. So there's a hungry audience there, and we're able to piggyback onto that audience, and then the 20 other accounts that are similar, and put the right message out, the right photo, to the right people, and that right message is going to shift for all these different audiences. Yeah. Because that influencer knows their audience the best. And then what we do is we take all of the content, take the best bits, and then we repost it on the Millhouse is one of the clients, the Millhouse's Instagram page or the Millhouse's Facebook. So it is a win-win for everybody. Yeah, it does work really well as long as you pick the right people. That's the hard part. That's
the key part, and finding the right influencer for that particular business.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how does that come about? What's the thought processes that go into that? Because again, I would imagine there's a lot of people who will call themselves influencers on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. So how do you go about selecting the right ones and connecting with them?
Well, everybody, I know a lot of the foodies now because obviously, as you can imagine, with multiple restaurants, and then you've just got to know them. They're like, it's done again, and they're like, oh, you working with these now, yeah. But yeah, so how we select them, it used to be easy because you used to be able to used to go on Instagram and did look at the posts. You just look through. Well, there's multiple ways that I do it. I can't give away all the secrets, you know. No. But to tell if someone's good or not, you can. I used to look through the engagement.
Okay.
So I thought an engaged audience is an audience that resonates with this post.
Yeah.
So if somebody's got like 100,000 followers but they're getting a low engagement rate, I'd rather have somebody with way less followers with a higher engagement rate.
Okay.
Because I know that content's resonating more with them people. They're more likely to take action based on what they're seeing.
Yeah.
So I just used to look at the engagement. Now we don't have. You can hide the likes on Instagram, which I actually think is a positive move for everybody. I don't know what your thoughts on that from a mental health point of view, but
I think that's a really positive move, because much like Facebook and Instagram, people will post and just get likes, and why did their post get more likes than mine, and it really can spiral negatively. So if you can hide that from Instagram, firstly, I didn't know you could do that, but secondly, yes, I think it's a really, really good move.
Yeah, so that but it has made my job harder slightly. Yeah, but I think it is generally for the best. Yeah. So now we can look at comments, and I think I've done it for so long now. You just instinctively know something's good, or it tends to be easier. I think with the niche that I primarily operate in, which is hospitality, tends to be a lot easier. I think it will be harder for people that sell e-commerce products, because I think that can unless you get the right content and the right person, that can come across negatively. I don't like working with people that have done hundreds of promotions for products that are crap, to put it lightly, like diet pills and stuff like that. I'm not a fan of that. Yeah. So if I say anything like that, I know I'm like, I don't think this influencer respects their audience enough.
Okay.
Because they're shilling this rubbish product. essentially for whatever they're getting paid to do it. So
yeah.
so people that like respect their audience and post great content
Uh-huh.
and have high levels of engagement. That's usually how I'd spot like influencers that I think we'd love to work with.
As opposed to the influencers who will turn up with the opening of an envelope and say how great it is and all the rest of it, because it's not right.
Yeah.
So those engagements, those engaged audiences show a good engagement to the influencer, and that's what you're looking for primarily.
Yeah, I mean, it helps if the audience is primarily local.
Yeah.
So if you've got like a lifestyle influencer, they could have a global audience.
Yeah.
So you've got to think, how much of an impact do they have on us? Like how much of an audience, like how much of the audience are we actually getting?
Yeah.
So local foodies are an example of a great one, because like I say, they've got the audience is local and highly engaged, and the content's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes I pick up, just if the content's class and the local, I'll just do it anyway.
Right.
So if they don't have a big audience, because I think it's good to get the people on board and earlier on. I think a lot of the people that we've worked with now are so used to us that they'll jump on anything that we do.
Yeah, and if it's a smaller one anyway, their audience will grow as long as they're providing good content.
Exactly.
As well. So again, you're back to that win-win situation as well. Okay, so that's the main part around hospitality. Is there just you? Do you work alone, or do you have staff working with you?
Yeah, well, I've it's just me at the minute. That's why I feel a little bit like a charlatan when I say business owner, because I feel I'm more of a freelancer than. But I have had staff in the past, and it's definitely something that we're gonna have to do again to grow. I've just used the royal we there. Yeah, so I had a couple of staff. The first, but I didn't hire well, and again, that's not a slight on the people. It was more of my own failing. So I didn't hire for the right roles, and for the right reasons, so to speak. So I think the first person, this is a lesson that I've learned. I don't know what other people's experiences are, but I think the first person that you should hire is somebody that is close to being a PA. Which seems mental, because you're like, what do you need a PA for? Like, there's only, like, if I said that, I need a PA, my mum and dad would be like, you are joking, aren't you? A PA.
Yeah.
But so I don't mean a PA, but I mean somebody that's going to take off your hands, quote unquote, low value tasks, so that you can focus on more revenue generating activities, like sales and marketing. Which is what I'm good at anyway. So so if somebody can take off my hands admin and tasks like that, that would help. The first hire I made was an apprentice. So my theory was similar. I thought that he can help me with some of the lower value tasks and teach them, and hopefully and become skilled and take off even more of my workload. But I spent so much time coaching him. It almost became like I was losing. He was essentially costing me more time. My workload increased rather than decreased, and I had an extra wage that I needed to pay, and the same amount of work.
Because you're spending time with him.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So, a better hire would have been somebody with a bit more life experience. Yeah. That could help take off more tasks, and then another hire. I hired a professional videographer and photographer, and I don't really know why I did that in hindsight, because everything that had worked for us in the past had been things that felt native, so native to Instagram, native to the app. But as much as Instagram actually started off like for people to share the photography, and it was highly adopted by photographers, it's just not what it is now. It's like the content needs to look real, it needs to feel real. Something that's highly polished, M&S advert style, just isn't going to perform well on Facebook and Instagram, and it costs a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of time to do. Okay. And it doesn't provide the value. It doesn't provide as much value to the clients that I would work with as the tasks that we were doing. Yeah. So the instinct was good. It was like, let's improve the product. Yeah. Yeah. But I went against what was working. I should have stuck with doing the tasks that worked for us, outsourcing to a full-time employee, outsourcing some of the lower value tasks and allowing me to focus more on sales and marketing, so I could bring in more business and to outsource more tasks to more skilled people. That would have been a better strategy. So it's definitely a lesson I've learned, and I'll take into hiring people soon.
So that's the next step, isn't it? It's important to learn those lessons and reflect, and then say, okay, next time I will do somebody. I'm looking for this type of person.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who is more comfortable. Maybe I don't know, when you're talking about admin things like diary management and travel and arranging meetings and invoicing and things like that, so you can then focus on the other stuff.
Yeah.
The higher value, as you say.
Even some of the admin tasks for clients, like one of the things we do is we respond to all the DMs.
Okay.
Every message that comes in to the page and every comment.
Right.
Which is great for the clients, because it means that all they have to focus on is producing great food and an amazing service. They don't have to worry about it. They don't have to touch Facebook or Instagram. They can trust it with us and leave knowing that it's all taken care of.
Yeah.
The problem with that is very labour intensive and time intensive, and messages come in all kinds of random times. So so taking care of things like that would definitely help. That would help take a lot more off my plate and allow me to focus on things that could move the needle more.
So is there a sort of a stress at this level of business, or are you comfortable managing it and now you're ready for those next steps, you know?
Yeah, I do feel comfortable now. Too comfortable, I think. I need more discomfort to a degree. I need more challenges have come. Not stale is the wrong word, but it's become. I feel like I'm ready to crack on again, type thing. What I've been doing so I don't regret hiring the people last time, because I learned so much from it, and everything that we're doing now is the royal way again.
Yeah.
Everything that I'm doing now is getting processes in place, documenting standard operating procedures. This is how you do this. This is how you do this. This is how you do this. So that when that person does come into play, there's a clear structure. There's a company wiki, which is what I call it. Every task that we do, this is how we do it. It's all here.
Yeah.
So that would definitely help. I do feel ready to take on the next thing. I feel like there was definitely a lot of stress having employees. Yeah. But I think if I get it right, it would remove the stress. It would remove more stress from my life than the hindrance that I was last time. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, quite often, a manager or a business owner will say the most stressful part of it is the staff and managing people.
Yeah.
So I totally empathise with that. And but as you say, you've learned a lot of lessons, and then it's the right hire and the right roles and doing all the preparation for the people or however many you bring in, and when you bring them in, it's all going to be in a better place because you've learned the lessons from the last ones.
Yeah.
Not disrespecting the last people who you hired, but maybe it's just learning those lessons. Yeah.
As much as I had to let them go, and I think that whole period was more of a reflection. It was more of a reflection on me than it was of them.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, I don't feel like that. And I told them this at the time. But I don't feel like them leaving it wasn't a slight on them. It's just at the end of the day, I hired them. It was my responsibility.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get it right, and I'll learn the processes of it, and hopefully that'll make me better at hiring people and hiring more people.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And one of those things to push out the comfort zone is in new industries that you're thinking of. So where do you think you'll go next?
I'm not sure. So one of the things that I've come up with is this saying, and it's like bespoke is bullshit, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of when I worked at previous agencies, a lot of the things that we did, and a lot of everyone else's marketing it's very much like everything is tailored to you. Every business is unique. Every situation is unique. Yeah. This is the solution. We'll come up with it. We are the brand creative strategists, and I'm like, if I say I'm a brand creative strategist, people are going to be like, what on earth are they talking about? You know what I mean? Like, just tell me what you do and how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
So that is my model for how I do things now. I try and talk to as many business owners, and I pick up little jobs. So I'm working with a security company on a website build, and I'm working with a semi-permanent makeup artist on a couple of stuff. And I'm trying to understand their problems, their challenges, and how we can use technology and digital marketing to solve them. And then once I've got that solution, I'll package it up, and I'll sell it to people that aren't direct competitors but are in the same industry. So, and in doing that, they can trust that we'll get the results for them because we've done it for other people like them.
Yes.
I think that is the way to go, because I think using a lot of other agencies will use big clients. So we've worked for them. You can trust us. We know what we're doing. But I mean, like the likes of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola works with thousands of marketing agencies. People put Coca-Cola on their thing, but in reality, they might have just made a leaflet for Coca-Cola. Or a roller banner. I want to be more aligned to real small businesses and industries that I really like. So I'm always looking for something. I'm always picking up these little jobs, but the little jobs are so time consuming and they're so heavy. It's like, to make this work where we can charge a price that is deemed reasonable by the client and that they can afford and justify. We have to have a set of systems, a set of processes on how we're going to achieve a specific result and what we're going to deliver. Bespoke work, it just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And it just takes the life out of you. So, I mean, everything we do is technically bespoke. Every website we create is from scratch. There's no templates for the different restaurants. There's no copy and paste. But it's all, the strategy is the same. The core beliefs and the core reasonings of what we think will work remains the same for each business. Of course, it changes with the time. There's new things like TikTok and that come in, but because we've got the foundations in place and we can then take that to different clients. So I think I love hospitality, but I think I think that is, to expand, we'll have to pick up a few more industries along the way. If we're going to be centered by geography. Because if you've got photographers, you can't. It becomes expensive to then send them down to London to go and do a shoot or abroad. So we're kind of confined in that sense for what we deliver for them. So if anyone's thinking about starting a marketing agency, I would recommend picking either doing what we do, where you solve problems. Bespoke is bullshit. Come up with the solution, deliver it consistently to clients for a fixed fee. And you've got residual income that way. That is another great tip. Residual income is massive. That takes the stress out of business, because you've got the cash flow there to help you out. If you're constantly doing bespoke work, yes, you might get a massive lump sum for a website, but then you might not get another payment for like a few months, and then that's another massive lump sum. So I suppose it's common across different industries like building and things like that. But so I do either what we do, or I become very, 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 very competent at a particular skill that can be done remotely. So something, I wouldn't say paid ads, because I think that's losing its potency, because artificial intelligence is making that so easy to do for people. It's now literally, you can go on Facebook and say, I want these people, and it's done. You don't need a specialist to do that anymore, in my opinion, for businesses with an ad spend of less than 10 million. More so find a skill that is underserved. So I think content that feels user generated for e-commerce sites, I think that's a great niche. I think if someone was to create an agency doing that, I think that is you could make a lot of money doing that. So those are the two models. I think doing bespoke work, I'm not a fan of that. I think I've done it before. Like I said, I did it through uni and things like that. It's a lot of work, a lot of stress, impossible deadlines all of the time. Yeah, definitely stick to one of them two models. We're going with the first one, and we're just looking for more industries we can apply to.
Working smarter, not harder.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it. Is there anything you'd like to promote before we wrap up, Dan?
No. Well, I suppose unless you are a hospitality business, that I'll tell you my ideal clients, and then if this sounds like you, we could help you out a lot. So my ideal client is a destination dining pub that does Sunday lunch and has a significant number of covers. If that is you, we could help you out tremendously, and we've done it for clients like you. I mean, you only have to go and look at the Mill House in Berkeley and see how they're doing. So if that's you, get in touch. Get in touch with us. You can email me, dan@hymus.co.uk, so HYMUS, M for mother, that was .co.uk. Yeah, and we'll see if we can work from there. But apart from that, thanks for having us.
Great stuff, Dan. It's been a great conversation. Thanks very much for your time today.
No problem.
Good luck for the future.
Thanks very much.
Take care now.
Bye. Bye.